take your space and your breath, and whenever the Spirit moves you.
By a show of hands, how many of you guys consider yourselves perfectionists? Actually, quite a lot of you. So I have a pretty perfectionist attitude that I can probably relate with all of you. It's either my way or the highway when I think of things like this. And now realizing, as being a perfectionist, right on the spot, I realize I should introduce myself. So I'm Leo, Leonardo Gonzalez Smith, Leo for short, and I'm from Carmel, California.
Oh.
Anyways, going back to what I was saying, it's either my way or the highway when I do projects. And I feel that I need to have control and a set order of everything I do. And it's both a blessing and a curse, but it has influenced three big important parts of my life, which I would consider my athletics, my academics, and lastly, my family.
Mm-hmm.
So to begin with, I'm going to explain more about how my perfectionist attitude has led to my athletic life. So ever since I was young, I always needed something to do. I was a big, energetic person, but coming with the sports that I always tried out, I always was super competitive. Getting second, to me, is being the first loser. And I'm always wanting to improve. And this attitude was very beneficial, but also detrimental. But on those aspects, I'll explain later. So it was helpful to me, actually, later on when I was in sports, when I tried out for the varsity soccer team as a freshman. And I made it, but it wasn't because I was skillful. It's because I could outwork anyone else, because I put my work in. And I put as much work, if not more, than anyone around me.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was in sports that I worked my hardest, I could also transfer that to my academic life. So for me, I always had to get A's. Anything less than an A was...
Are we moving to the next point?
Yes.
Let's do that with simply, and I like that transition, also in my academic life.
Yeah.
And that is what I will next
Be discussing.
Perfect. Okay. Before you start each sentence, take a breath and go forward, rather than an or an and or a so.
So more simple, less complex sentences? Or?
Don't use and instead of punctuation, or so instead of punctuation, because right now it's a huge paragraph. There hasn't been
It's a big run-on sentence?
Exactly. There we go, yeah. So make it simply take that breath rather than saying and or so. Maybe I'll take a breath with you. Here we go. Let's go into that second mind point. Okay.
So...
First word.
To follow up, I've always tried to use my determination and grit from my sports life to my academic life. Meaning, I will always try my best at any assignment. An example of this would be one year, that was bad. One year, I had a teacher in a subject that was very hard for me tell me I was a waste of time in that subject. And instead of giving up, I tried my best to prove him wrong. And so I did.
Okay, so we'll go back and let's say that in a sentence. Ready? Mm-hmm. For example, one year I had a teacher who told me I was a waste in that subject. Mm-hmm. What's the next part?
Oh, so it'd be like, I was going to say, so I studied, but then can you not start with a transitional phrase, a sentence?
You can. So I studied, yeah?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I studied to prove him wrong.
Perfect. Now, what's your next one?
Then, when I took the test the following day, I aced it and proved him wrong. Also, to follow up on an academic inhibitor for me that pushed me to my limits was my reading skills. Mm-hmm. I am a very slow reader, so what takes people maybe 2 to 3 minutes to read takes me 15 to 20 minutes to read. That challenge gave me quite a bunch of difficulty, especially on the ACT, which all of you may feel like you have all taken that and felt the struggles. But it made me have to work inherently harder than my peers to accomplish the same goals. Lastly, I would like to follow or to explain how my family has imposed this perfectionist attitude onto me. My sister and brother are very high achievers. One is a Cal Poly mechanical engineer, while the other one is a three-sport athlete valedictorian of her class at UC Davis. So I felt that I had to keep up with them. Whether it was my mother or father pushing me, or even maybe me trying to prove to myself I'm good enough, that I must work harder and prove people wrong. So, not so. I always wanted to do better, and so I tried my best to prove both my family wrong in the sense so I would not be a disappointment. In conclusion, I would like to follow up on the idea of perfectionism and how it is both a blessing and a curse. And as Khan was mentioning in his speech earlier, he mentioned about perfectionism and how his mom had this perfectionist attitude. And I feel that many people see it as a burden. It can also be a blessing as well because it makes you work harder on the things you need to work on. And I am happy to say that it has influenced my sports and academics, but also my family life in a beneficial way that defines me and makes me who I am.